Growing up as the youngest of 3 siblings, I'd always been the family afterthought. My brother Marcus excelled at everything. Star quarterback, valedictorian, full scholarship to Harvard Business School. Meanwhile, I quietly pursued art and hospitality management at a state school. The family narrative was clear. Marcus was destined for greatness and I was destined to struggle. "She's got no business sense," Dad would tell his golf buddies whenever my career came up. Wasting time on hotel management when she could have followed Marcus into finance. Mom would nod sympathetically as though my career choice were a personal disappointment she'd learned to accept with grace. The dynamic crystallized at every gathering. Marcus held court at the center of attention, regaling everyone with stories of his latest business conquest, while I sat quietly in the corner, occasionally asked to help serve drinks or clear plates. Everyone seemed comfortable with the arrangement. Everyone except me, though I never voiced my objection. 3 years ago, Marcus announced his engagement to Victoria, a pharmaceutical heiress from Connecticut. The family celebration lasted for weeks. The engagement party was held at the country club with 200 guests toasting their perfect match. Naturally, I was invited, but seated at a table with distant cousins and family friends who barely knew my name. "Isn't it wonderful how successful Marcus has become?" Aunt Helen gushed that night. "And poor little Emma is still figuring things out." The condescending pat on my shoulder that followed became a family trademark, one I'd grown accustomed to receiving. The wedding planning consumed the next 18 months. Victoria wanted everything perfect for their power couple celebration, as she called it. Venue selection alone took 6 months, with the family touring luxury hotels across the East Coast in search of a location worthy of Marcus' success story. When they finally settled on the Grand Metropolitan, a flagship luxury hotel in downtown Boston, the family was ecstatic. "Only the best for Marcus and Victoria," Mom declared. "This is where important people get married." The irony wasn't lost on me, but as always, I kept my thoughts to myself. The wedding weekend arrived with all the pomp my family had anticipated. Marcus' groomsmen were a collection of investment bankers, consultants, and entrepreneurs, each more accomplished than the last. Victoria's side included pharmaceutical executives, old money socialites, and political connections. Together, they formed the kind of network Marcus had always wanted to join. I arrived at the Grand Metropolitan on Friday evening for the rehearsal dinner, wearing a simple navy dress I'd chosen specifically to avoid drawing attention. The hotel's opulent lobby buzzed with wedding guests in designer clothes, their laughter confident and easy. At the reception desk, the clerk scanned her screen. "Emma Williams? Oh yes, we have you in the premium suite on the 28th floor." She handed me a key card with an odd smile. "Please let us know if there's anything at all we can do to make your stay more comfortable." The rehearsal dinner took place in the hotel's private dining room, an elegant space with crystal chandeliers and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the harbor. Marcus and Victoria held court at the head table, surrounded by their wedding party and immediate family. I was seated at a side table with elderly relatives and acquaintances who spent the evening discussing their ailments. "Emma's still in the hospitality business," Mom explained when someone asked about my career. "She manages some little boutique hotels." The dismissive tone was subtle but unmistakable. Several people nodded politely before shifting the conversation back to Marcus' recent promotion to senior vice president. The wedding ceremony itself was flawless. Victoria looked radiant in her custom Verong gown, and Marcus beamed with the confidence of a man whose life was unfolding exactly as planned. I sat in the 4th row with family friends, watching my brother marry into the kind of success our parents had always dreamed of for him. After the ceremony, guests moved to the hotel's grand ballroom for the reception. Thousands of white orchids, crystal centerpieces, and ambient lighting transformed the space into something out of a magazine spread. The guest list read like a who's who of Boston's elite, executives, bankers, and politicians mingling over champagne and caviar. I found my seat at table 12 near the back with a handful of Marcus' old teachers, distant relatives, and Victoria's great-aunt, who complained constantly about the music. It was clearly the obligatory guest table. When Marcus and Victoria made their rounds, Marcus gave me a quick hug, Victoria a polite smile. They didn't linger. There were more important people to greet. That's when Marcus' college friends at the next table noticed me. "Look at her sitting alone over there," whispered James, his old roommate now at Goldman Sachs. His voice carried just enough to reach my table. Definitely a budget table guest. Who is she? Another groomsman asked. Marcus glanced over and shrugged. Family obligation invite. My sister Emma. Nice enough but not really our crowd if you know what I mean. The group chuckled knowingly. Family obligation invites. People included for appearances but not meant to belong. What does she do? James pressed. Some kind of hotel management thing, Marcus replied, his tone as dismissive as Mom's had been the night before. Nothing significant. She's always been more artistic, not particularly business-minded. Heat rushed to my cheeks but I forced composure. This was Marcus' night. I had no intention of causing a scene. I smiled politely, focusing on my dinner, pretending not to hear. The reception unfolded like a perfectly choreographed performance. The first dance was elegant, clearly rehearsed for months. The speeches were polished, painting a picture of a couple destined for greatness. Every detail reflected the family's vision of Marcus' success story. Conversations swirled around me. Business deals, investment strategies, political connections. When people asked what I did, their interest evaporated as soon as I said, hospitality management. Marcus' friends glanced at me occasionally, whispering as though I were a curiosity, not a guest. During the cake cutting, I slipped outside to the terrace for fresh air. Boston Harbor glittered below, city lights scattered like diamonds on the water. For a moment, I let myself imagine what it might feel like to belong at an event like this. Not as a tolerated obligation but as someone seen, someone respected. Excuse me, are you Emma Williams? I turned. A man in his 50s, well-dressed, approached. His name tag read Robert Chin, hotel director. Yes, that's me, I said, wondering if something was wrong with my room. Miss Williams, I've been looking for you all evening. I wanted to personally ensure everything is perfect for tonight's celebration. Is there anything we can do to enhance your experience? His attention felt oddly formal but I appreciated the courtesy. Everything has been wonderful. The wedding is beautiful. I'm delighted to hear that. If you don't mind me asking, how do you know the bride and groom? Marcus is my brother, I explained. Mr. Chin's expression shifted slightly. Your brother? Of course. Well, please don't hesitate to contact me personally if you need anything at all. He handed me his card with a slight bow before slipping back inside. Strange, but perhaps just exceptional service for such a high-profile event. When I returned, the dance floor was crowded. Marcus and Victoria moved with ease through their circle of accomplished friends, each conversation another chance to build their empire. From my table, I overheard two of Victoria's sorority sisters. She really doesn't fit in here, does she? One said, nodding in my direction. Who? The sister. Nice enough, I guess, but definitely not their crowd. Marcus said she works in hospitality or something. Probably doesn't make much money. Well, at least she's trying to dress appropriately. That navy dress is actually quite lovely, even if it's clearly not designer. I felt my face burn with embarrassment but kept my expression neutral. This was the kind of situation I'd spent my life navigating, being discussed as if I weren't present, being evaluated and found wanting by people who saw me as fundamentally different from themselves. The conversations flowed on as the night wore down. Marcus' business school friends dominated the area around the head table, swapping stories of recent successes and ambitious plans. Victoria's pharmaceutical colleagues clustered near the bar, trading insights about industry trends and regulatory changes. Everyone seemed to belong to an exclusive club with credentials I simply didn't possess. By 11 o'clock, the reception was winding down. I decided to retreat to my room. The evening had been beautiful and Marcus looked genuinely happy, but I felt increasingly out of place among his polished friends and Victoria's accomplished family. As I rose to leave, Marcus intercepted me, slightly flushed from champagne and dancing. Emma, he said, pulling me into a quick hug. Thanks for coming. I know this probably isn't your usual scene, but it means a lot that you were here. It was beautiful, Marcus. Really. Victoria looked stunning and you both seemed so happy. We are. And who knows? Maybe some of this success will rub off on you eventually. He grinned, clearly intending it as brotherly teasing, but it stung more than he realized. Maybe, I replied with a practiced smile. Congratulations again. At the elevator, I could still hear the laughter and music behind me. The sound of people who belonged together, celebrating a future of promise and possibility. When the doors opened, I stepped inside with relief. On the 15th floor, the elevator stopped. Robert Chin, the hotel director, stepped in. He looked surprised to see me. "Miss Williams, leaving the celebration early?" "Just heading to my room. It's been a long day." "Of course. I hope everything exceeded your expectations this evening." "Absolutely. The staff has been exceptional and the venue is gorgeous." Mr. Chin smiled, though there was something in his expression I couldn't quite read. "We're honored to host such an important celebration for your family." When the elevator reached the 28th floor, I stepped out. As the doors closed, I heard him speaking quietly into his phone. "She's heading to her room now." "Yes, I'll make sure everything is ready for tomorrow morning." I thought, but hotels ran on their own schedules. Probably a detail about checkout. My suite was more luxurious than I'd expected. A spacious living area with harbor views, a marble bathroom, amenities that likely cost more per night than most people's rent. Settling onto the sofa with a cup of tea, I reflected on the evening. I'd grown accustomed to being the family's afterthought. Marcus' success was real and impressive. He deserved recognition. If that meant I played a supporting role in the family story, so be it. I had my own life, my own quiet satisfactions, even if they didn't translate into the kind of social capital that impressed wedding guests. The next morning, I packed my suitcase and prepared to check out. Despite some uncomfortable moments, the wedding had been beautiful. I was eager to return to my own world where I didn't feel perpetually out of place. As I wheeled my luggage toward the elevator, my phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Thanks again for last night. You're a good sport about everything. Love you, sis." I was typing a reply when the elevator doors opened, revealing Robert Chin once again. "Ms. Williams. Perfect timing. Would you mind joining me in my office for just a moment? There's something I need to discuss with you before you leave." His tone was professional but urgent. Assuming it was about billing or room arrangements, I followed him through a series of corridors to an executive office suite I hadn't known existed. "Please have a seat," he said, gesturing toward a leather chair. "I wanted to personally thank you for choosing the Grand Metropolitan for your brother's wedding celebration. It was Marcus and Victoria's choice, but thank you. Everything was perfect." Mr. Chin opened a folder and studied several documents. "Ms. Williams, may I ask, did you enjoy your stay at our property?" "Very much. The service was exceptional and the facilities are beautiful." "I'm delighted to hear that. We take pride in exceeding expectations for all our guests. Especially our ownership." I frowned. "Ownership?" He hesitated, then spoke carefully. "Surely you know we've been expecting you." The entire staff was briefed. We wanted to ensure everything was absolutely perfect for the weekend. "I think there's been a mistake," I said slowly. "I'm just here for my brother's wedding. I don't know what you mean about ownership." Mr. Chin's expression shifted toward concern. "Ms. Williams, you do realize that you own this hotel, along with the other 47 properties in the Metropolitan Luxury Group?" The words didn't make sense. It felt like a conversation in a foreign language I almost understood, but not quite. "I think you're confusing me with someone else. I work in hospitality management, but I certainly don't own any hotels." Mr. Chin slid another folder across the desk. Inside were legal documents bearing my full name. "According to our records, Emma Catherine Williams became sole owner of Metropolitan Luxury Group 18 months ago, following the terms of your grandmother's trust. The transition was managed discreetly through Peton Walsh and Associates in New York." My grandmother's trust fund. The phrase struck like cold water. I remembered the lawyers' meeting after Grandma Rose's funeral. She'd been the family's legend, the self-made woman who had started with a boarding house and expanded into real estate. The family always described her holdings as modest investments. At 28, the lawyers had explained I would inherit. But the language had been so dense I hadn't grasped the scope. 18 months ago was my 28th birthday, I whispered. "Exactly. Your grandmother's instructions were clear. All Metropolitan properties transferred to your control at that time." Discreetly. He spread out documents, property deeds, financial statements, corporate filings. The Grand Metropolitan wasn't just one hotel. It was the flagship of a chain spanning Boston, New York, Chicago, San Francisco, Miami. A portfolio worth $1.2 billion. For 18 months. My voice shook. While my family treated me like a charity case, I've been one of the wealthiest individuals in Massachusetts, Mr. Chin finished gently. The room spun. I stared at the papers, barely able to process the numbers. Annual revenues in the hundreds of millions. Prime properties I'd walked past countless times without knowing I owned them. Why didn't anyone tell me? Your grandmother insisted on discretion, Mr. Chin said. She wanted you to build your own foundation before stepping into this responsibility. The management company has overseen operations, awaiting your involvement. I thought of the odd glances from staff, the special treatment, the way Mr. Chin had approached me at the reception. They hadn't been indulging a regular guest. They'd been tending to their owner. Mr. Chin folded his hands. The board is eager to meet with you. There are reports, expansion proposals, acquisitions, all awaiting your approval. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Hope you got home safely. Sorry if some of the guys were pretentious last night. You know how banker types are. Banker types. I almost laughed at the irony. Mr. Chin, I'll need time to process this. Can we schedule a meeting for next week? Of course. Shall I arrange for our legal team and financial advisors to brief you? Yes. That would be helpful. I gathered the documents, my hands trembling. One more thing, the wedding bill. Already taken care of, Ms. Williams. Complimentary, naturally. It was our honor. The elevator ride down felt surreal. I was the same person who had arrived 2 days earlier, yet everything had changed. The lobby gleamed with new meaning. This wasn't just a luxury hotel. It was my hotel. As I stepped into the street, my phone rang. Marcus. Hey, just wanted to make sure you got out okay. Victoria and I are heading to the airport for our honeymoon. Everything's fine. Have a wonderful trip. Thanks. And sorry again if last night was overwhelming. My friends aren't always the most inclusive. You handled it well. Maybe when we're back we can grab dinner. I'd love to hear more about your hotel management thing. My hotel management thing. I looked up at the Grand Metropolitan, its elegant facade glowing in the sunlight. I'd like that, I said. I have quite a bit to tell you about my work. After we hung up, I lingered on the sidewalk watching guests flow in and out of the revolving doors. Executives, tourists, families, all entering a property that belonged to me. In a few hours, I'd return to my modest apartment and begin to comprehend the weight of a billion-dollar portfolio. My phone buzzed with a text from Victoria. Thank you for celebrating with us. The hotel was perfect. We couldn't have asked for a better venue. Hope you enjoyed yourself despite all of us type A personalities. I typed back, it was beautiful. The hotel really is exceptional. That much was true. And soon I would learn just how exceptional it really was. For years I'd watched Marcus climb, my family dismissing me as insignificant. Last night his friends had whispered about budget table guests, while sitting in a ballroom that belonged to me. But perhaps the most remarkable part wasn't the wealth itself. It was my grandmother's wisdom in keeping it hidden until I was ready. She understood what the rest of my family never had. Real power doesn't need to announce itself. It can afford to wait in the shadows until the right moment to emerge. As my taxi pulled away, I caught sight of Marcus and Victoria exiting the hotel, their luggage being loaded into a limousine. Hotel staff treated them like VIPs in a property owned by their overlooked relative. I smiled to myself and leaned back in the seat. Next week I would have some very interesting conversations about my little hotel management thing. But for now I was content to let them enjoy their honeymoon, blissfully unaware that the family's afterthought had just inherited one of the most successful hospitality empires on the East Coast. Good wedding? The taxi driver asked, glancing in the rearview mirror. Perfect, I said, looking out at the city where I apparently owned several luxury hotels. Absolutely perfect.